So this is a video that I've been wanting to do now for probably about 3 days and just didn't have the time to do it. But I just had another situation come up today, just like this situation. And I just had some time in between coaching calls where I was like, you know what? Now is the perfect time to do this video. So I just recently recorded another video on the importance of the difference between single ingredient foods and multi-ingredient foods when it comes to weight loss. And you may or may not have seen that video by now by the time you're seeing this. So definitely that'll be somewhere on the channel. And I talk in that video about why it's harder to lose weight when you eat what I like to call multi-ingredient foods, but that's not necessarily what this video is about today. Today is a video where I want to touch on the importance of tracking, and it seems like that's one of the topics that I talk about most with my clients: tracking what they eat, tracking their workouts, and it seems like it's a sticking point for a lot of people. And everyone that tracks successfully says that it benefits them for multiple reasons. It works. It's just proven over my 35-year training and coaching career that the clients that are more diligent and intentional about tracking are always more successful. And there's many different reasons why, but I want to talk about one of my clients this week, actually now 2 clients this week, that goes to show exactly why tracking what you eat is so important. So on Wednesday, I had a coaching call with a client. Now, the week prior, this client lost 3 pounds. Over this past week, this client gained 3 pounds. Now, the good thing about this client is he's really diligent about tracking. Now, there's some things here and there that aren't tracked, but for the most part, he tracks his exercise and he tracks his food. And one of the reasons why I say tracking is so important is because it takes the guesswork out of it. Like I always like to say, if you're not tracking, you're guessing. And tracking just takes the guesswork out of what needs to be done, how to do it, why something worked, why it didn't work. It just takes all the guesswork out of it and keeps it nice and plain and simple. So the client, 2 weeks ago, he lost weight. And then this past week, he didn't lose any weight. And when we were talking, I said, well, why do you think it is that you didn't lose any weight? And he says, I don't know, coach. I can't tell you. I have no answers. I have no idea. And I said, well, let's go back and look at the last 2 weeks, because there's no way that you did the same thing in a 2-week period, and 1 week you lost 3 pounds and the other week you actually gained 3 pounds. There's no way. It can't be different. So we went back and looked. 2 weeks ago, when he lost weight, he ate 10,791 calories. That was the week that he lost weight. And he also logged 7 workouts. Now, this past week, where he gained 3 pounds, he ate 19,935 calories, and he only logged 2 workouts. Now, the evidence was there. However, there were some things that as we were talking, he said, oh yeah, I did remember going out and eating this here. And okay, because I started going through his list of what he logged. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, I did do this and I didn't log it. And I did eat this and I forgot to log it. So as we were talking, he started remembering things that he had done that in the moment he didn't realize or wasn't remembering that he had done. So there's a lot of mindless eating that we're just eating and we're not really thinking about it. We're not paying attention to it. So we're not thinking to log it. And as I always say, if you ask me, today is Friday, if you ask me what I ate on Wednesday, I couldn't tell you what I ate on Wednesday with accuracy. And I pretty much eat the same things all the time, but I know there's some variability between days of eating. So if he had not tracked, we would have had to guess what happened. And I don't know many people that are really successful by guessing their way to success. Oftentimes, that leads to confusion and it leads to frustration. But because he had tracked the majority of what he was doing, we could simply go back and say, okay, here's what we need to do over this next 7 days, instead of us, again, trying to guess and maybe get it right and maybe not. So that's one of the examples of why it's important to track what you're doing. Now, and this actually makes me think of another client who was seeing success for 8 weeks. She's been part of my coaching program now for, probably 9 weeks. So we were talking in one of her calls because she gained weight this week. Now, out of the 9 weeks, this was the first week that she had gained weight. And I said to her, what was different? And she kind of said the same thing. I have no idea what was different. I did the same exact thing that I've been doing. So I said, well, let's look at what you tracked. And the crazy thing was, she didn't track anything over this past 7 days. I do her coaching calls on Tuesday. So from Tuesday to Tuesday, from last Tuesday to this past Tuesday, and it's Friday now. So the previous Tuesday to this past Tuesday was the first time she gained 1.5 pounds. And she was frustrated. Now, she had gone 8 weeks, every week losing weight. And the only difference between the 8 weeks where she lost weight and the week that she didn't lose weight was that she didn't track what she ate. Now, it's pretty obvious, because you can go back and look at all of her weeks that she was tracking, that everything was in alignment. There was some individual variability, but she was paying closer attention to what she was doing. Whereas this past week, what she told me is she got overconfident and she thought she didn't need to track. And I said, well, obviously you do, because that was really the only difference between what you did. Now, obviously, there was some difference between what she actually ate as well, because she really wasn't paying as close attention to what she was eating over this past week. So all of my clients that track all say that it helps them really identify what they're doing. It helps them to identify what works and identify what does not work, which is obviously something that you can't do if you're not tracking. Now, the last example just happened today, which is closer to the first example, where I had a client 2 weeks ago. She lost 3 pounds. Now, this past week, she gained 4 pounds. And of course, I asked her, well, why do you think that is that you gained 4 pounds? And again, she was shocked. She was frustrated. So I said to her, well, let's go back and let's look. Now, there was one day where she logged like 50 calories. There was another day where she logged like 200 calories. And then there was another day where she logged like 700 calories. So her logging over this past week was much less than it had been the previous weeks where she had seen weight loss success. So that's odd, because the numbers don't add up to a 4-pound weight gain. So again, there's no way that it could be the same exact week. Just if we look at what you logged the previous week when you lost 3 pounds, you logged more calories that week than this past week. So there's no way that you could have eaten the same exact things, did the same amount of physical activity, and you gained 4 pounds. It just does not make sense. So then after us talking, it was somewhat of an emotional week, and she started remembering about some bread she had eaten and some sweets she had eaten and a bunch of other things that she had eaten that she hadn't logged. And one of her comments was, she said, Coach, I'm just going to be honest with you. Certain things are not in the app for me to log them because I eat out of a lot of recipes. So it's hard to find the items to log them. And she's like, I'm not going to, enter every single ingredient in that recipe. That just takes too much time and I'm just not going to do it. So I get that. If you're making a dish that has 6, 7, 8 ingredients in it, and you're not following a recipe, and I told her if you're following a recipe, it's different because you can just take that recipe and you can log it based on that recipe. Within the app within the app that I use, you can actually create custom items. But again, this does take time. So if you predominantly eat from recipes, it is very difficult. And again, you've either seen the video or as of right now, as I record this video, I have not uploaded that video yet on the single ingredient foods versus the multi-ingredient foods. But if you eat predominantly multi-ingredient recipes, it will be very difficult for you to accurately track. And oftentimes we underestimate how much we actually eat. So we oftentimes end up eating more than we think we're eating. And that was her instance, her situation. Now, another thing I said to her was that I noticed that the last 3 weeks, you hadn't been measuring your body fat, but the other weeks you were. And she said, to be honest with you, I just wasn't thinking about it. And I had guessed that it probably was more water weight that she gained than fat. Because the reality is you're not going to gain 4 pounds, most likely, you're not going to gain 4 pounds of fat in the course of 7 days. But it is more likely that you will gain 4 pounds of water within a 7-day period. So then we went down the rabbit hole of, well, what would cause your body to gain water? Now, I did tell her that if you had been tracking your body fat, we would be able to give a more clear determination on if it was fat or if it was water. Because if you gain 4 pounds, but your body fat doesn't go up, then that tells me that you didn't gain body fat, and we know you didn't gain muscle. So it's most likely that you gained water, which is more of an easy fix. So then we went down the rabbit hole of why would your body gain or hold on to water? And I'm not going to stretch this video out longer than it needs to be because that's not what this video is about. But this video is about talking about the importance of tracking. If you're not tracking, you're guessing now. Will there become a point where you don't have to track? And that answer is yes. One of my clients thought that she was at that point. It ends up that she's not. And I will tell a lot of my clients at certain points in the journey when they're doing really good, I will say, okay, what I would like you to do is over the next week, I actually had this conversation with one of my clients this past Tuesday. I gave her the ability, because she's been doing really, really good with losing weight and tracking. I said, I feel comfortable with you not having to be so diligent about tracking, because I believe we're at least at a point where we're starting to create the habits where you may not have to rely on tracking so much in order for you to continue to succeed. But she said, nope, I want to continue tracking because I feel like I still need to do it to continue to get closer to my goal. And I told her, like, look, I appreciate the honesty, and I'm not going to tell you you have to not track, because really it was going to be my opportunity to run a test to see, was she truly at a point where she could not track and still get results. But she didn't believe that she was ready to stop tracking. So I completely support that decision. But if you are having a hard time reaching your goals and you're winging it, I don't know many people that have been successful with anything in life, just winging it. So I would highly recommend that you at least track for a little bit. Get an idea of what works and what doesn't work. And then you'll get to a point where you create a habit around the way you eat, and tracking will help you create that habit. And then once that habit is created, then you can ease off of tracking, because you just got to continue to do what's working. Now, don't ease off of tracking and then completely go left, or I should say, that's go right. Go left on how you're eating, because then that kind of defeats the purpose of tracking. So again, I would highly urge, if you're having trouble reaching your goals, if you're having trouble losing weight and you can't figure out why because you think you're eating really healthy. And I also told my client when she started talking about, oh, well, yeah, I did eat this and yeah, I ate this. And she said, well, I did eat bread and it was healthier than white bread. And I said to her, I said, don't get fooled by thinking because oftentimes what we do is we think because something is healthier than the option that we would normally choose, that we really don't have to pay attention to how much of it we eat. We have this idea that we can eat more of it, or it doesn't matter how much of it we eat because it's quote unquote healthier. And I said to her, I said, the thing here with carbs is that your body cannot tell the difference between a candy bar and a piece of bread. Now, yes, the bread might break down slower because it might have more fiber in it. But when your body processes those carbs, it all turns into the same thing. So once your body digests and processes it, your body can't tell the difference between what it was before you put it in your mouth. So it's all the same thing. So don't get fooled by believing because you're eating a healthier version of something that is, I hate to say bad because there's no bad foods, but you're eating a healthier version of something that you don't have to pay attention to how much of it you eat because you do. Everything that goes into your mouth, I tell my clients, if it has calories in it and you chew it or you drink it, if you put it in your mouth, it matters. So let me know below what you think. I know this tracking is a touchy subject, but it works. And if you need help reaching your fitness goals, then I want you to click the first link below in the description, fill out the form, and the two of us will figure out what we need to do to get you from where you're at to where you want to be.